It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Welcome to another insightful episode of the EdTech Mondays Nigeria show. I am your host, Chinyelu Akpa. It's good to be here again. We kicked off the conversation this month on one of the emerging trends in education, artificial intelligence. We have the co-founder of Schooler, creators of Corey AI, followed by insights from the country director of the Global AI Council. And we'll be wrapping up this month's conversation with a seasoned education professional with over 12 years of experience. He has excelled in various roles, including as a learning and development specialist, instructional designer, and researcher. His expertise lies in leading STEM education initiatives and implementing educational technology solutions, particularly the application of AI for scalable and adaptive learning. Currently serving as a community operations manager at Data Science Nigeria, our guest focuses on improving learning outcomes in underserved communities, aiming to enable learning for 1 billion learners in developing economies, leveraging artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. Welcome, Mr. Omotayo Olorunfemi. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Luapa. The pleasure is mine. It's an honor to be part of this conversation. Thank you so much.
In the last 2 weeks, we have discussed how AI can be integrated into educational systems, helping our listeners understand what AI and also demystify some of the notions that AI will take away jobs or make students lazy or that is not even needed for Nigeria at this time. So tell us, given your extensive experience in educational technology and now AI, what role do you think AI would play in addressing the current challenges in education in Nigeria?
All right. Thank you so much, Chinyelu, for that question. You're very correct. Some of these conversations have been coming on in different fora. And for many persons, like you said, there's this belief that, oh, maybe AI will replace the teachers and all. Now, but very quickly for me to speak about the role, one of the very first thing AI will do or is already doing in the education space is what we call personalization of learning. Now, personalization of learning is where learners can have access to AI-enabled systems, AI-enabled platforms, AI-enabled solutions that they can leverage to generate learning content in the form of text, in the form of videos, in the form of audios, even in the form of flashcards. Now, this learning contents enable them to be able to, and then the process enable them to be able to select their preferred learning approaches, such that they are learning with the kind of content that they will be more interested in learning with. For example, at DSN, we have a product called ULearn, where we're targeting an exact solution just like the one I just explained now. So that is the very first thing that AI is already enabling in the education space, personalization of learning. Number two, AI is helping the education space to be able to leverage what we refer to as data-driven insight. Now, data-driven insight is when, based on leveraging some AI solution, it is easy for us now to determine student school performances. We can track their dropout rate of learners in schools. We can track students' data. Student data can also be tracked. Various data of the students can be tracked within this system. Most importantly, even for government, I think Nigeria has something like that in place called NEMIS, also NEMIS, that enables with that system, you can run what we call targeted interventions so that you know where there's a need and where the need should actually be targeted at, and not just a random sampling process. Number three, intelligent tutor systems. Intelligent tutor systems is another way in which artificial intelligence can help to drive effective teaching and learning in the classroom. So actually, intelligent tutor systems are like your chatbots, the common chatbot to interact with when maybe you're banking or various platforms that you use. So we have same in the education space. You know what the intelligent chatbots helps with is like they help to deliver. They could also help to deliver feedback system. You attend to question, they give detailed feedback, and then at the same time they could also share learning tips, call learning summaries. So intelligent tutor systems also help learners to be able to learn effectively. And then maybe let me stop at number 4, is it also helps to bridge access. And so much people talk about this, but you can leverage AI even to deliver learning content, even in rural systems, because there was a project we did with the MasterCard, that's at Data Science Nigeria, immediately after COVID, called the Learn at Home project. You know, we leverage artificial intelligence through the adaptive learning engine and very simple localized solutions like the USSD SMSs on our phone, low-tech platforms. We're able to integrate both together so that learners in even interior part of Nigeria, they were learning leveraging just their normal feature phones. So yes, these are many more some of the roles of AI in the education system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omotayo. And you packed quite a punch in these responses you gave. And I'll just quickly run through them. And it's interesting to see, the areas of alignment from some previous conversations we have. Our first guest this month was, Abdul from Corey AI. And one thing he mentioned, one example he gave that stuck with me was that AI would give everyone the opportunity to have an Einstein in their garage, and which is what you've brilliantly explained as your intelligent tutor systems, where you're giving you feedback and can help you, break down various content matters into smaller bits for your assimilation. You also spoke about personalized learning. This is something that we struggle with already, with our class sizes, in our public school systems and, semi-private school systems as well. So if we're able to incorporate AI, I see how this would improve the learning experience for our students in schools, helping them feel seen, helping them feel heard, and spotlighting where their areas of concern would be. So thank you very much. You mentioned data-driven learning. This makes a lot of sense. You know where you're putting more effort to and where you can put the least effort and still get your desired outcome. Thank you so much, Mr. Omotayo, for these brilliant responses. So then I'll take it to the work you're doing with Data Science Nigeria. I'm aware that you have a mission to raise 1 million AI talents in Nigeria and prepare them for the future of work.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on how this initiative is progressing and its impact on the local education system? And I'm interested in asking this mainly because I know that there's so much talk about, AI now in even governance for us. We have our National Artificial Intelligence Strategy that was introduced, some months back. So it's good to see that, both the government and the private sector are trying to build AI talent, are trying to create a framework for the adoption of AI in Nigeria. So tell us what Data Science Nigeria is doing, how much progress you've made, and the impact it will make on our local education system.
All right, thank you so much for that question. As you know, at Data Science Nigeria, our core is actually democratizing access to quality content, learning content, research and solutions, artificial intelligence. And the national AI strategy that you just mentioned now, I mean to say that DSN is actually leading towards achieving our number is grassroots training. We know that for this, one of the most critical need at this time in the area of artificial intelligence is the skilling for people to be able to have the requisite skill. So one of what we do so much of is what we call grassroots training. We do a lot of grassroots training. We run a Catch Them Young process where even we have AI Kids Club in primary school and secondary schools. We have our community, we do a lot of community building. We have communities in major cities and campuses in Nigeria, in major cities and campuses across the whole country of Nigeria and even in some other countries in Africa, including UK and Dubai. We have communities in all of these places, and they are calling a learning community and a research community. So there are a lot of trainings ongoing, targeted at various vertical skills required in artificial intelligence to actually upskill young people who are the major targets, to be able to acquire the requisite skill to be able to function in an AI-enabled world, which is what we are entering into. Number two, we also do a lot of mentorship program. We run mentorship sessions where we bring industry experts, many of them even locals, foreigners, local Nigerians from various foreign countries and all of that, where they come and offer, they give specific hours every month to upskill the local talents that we're raising in Nigeria. So we run a very effective mentorship system. Number three, towards the achievement of this goal, we also do a lot of industry partnership. In collaboration with various either organizations or companies. For example, there's a program we're running in Kaduna, which is also targeting the core north, where we are training 5,000 Arewa ladies in the acquisition of skill sets in artificial intelligence for their data science for Python, data science for Microsoft Azure, and data science with Power BI, where they acquire the core skill sets of artificial intelligence. And so already about 4,000, and we're still training more. So achieving that number, it's not the core issue. We're really pushing towards achieving that number, and we're running a very inclusive system across the country, across various sectorial divide, where we are now helping learners to be able to acquire the right skill set. And lastly on this, we do this by leveraging not just experts, we leverage project-based learning and leveraging real-world scenario, such that even the projects that are being solved, in fact, some of the graduates from Higher ladies now, they're already working with Data Science Nigeria, those from the first quarter of this program, working with Data Science Nigeria to implement some data science-related projects in the corners of Nigeria.
This is interesting, and I like that you are getting a lot more females into the mix and not making it look, how we tend to, the mistakes we always tend to make when, building talent and not centralizing it. So well done for what you're doing. And I'm not sure that this came out strongly, but what do you envisage to be the impact on our local education system? And you've mentioned the grassroots intervention, you've mentioned a lot of things, and down to what you're doing up north. So what would its impact, what would be the impact on our local education system? Do we see more talents who are able to support developers or EdTech organizations who are building products that leverage artificial intelligence, or just people who have more knowledge on how to handle data? How would it impact the education ecosystem for us in Nigeria?
Thank you so much. To speak to that very briefly, just like you mentioned, we are doing grassroots training, one, targeted at the education sector across various levels, the primary, the secondary, and the higher institution. Number two, we're also having some partnership with some universities in Nigeria, where we're either involved with them in doing specific or niche focused trainings, and then at the same time, even involved in curriculum review, curriculum redesign, and development, such that the curriculum being used in the IT specific courses in some higher institutions are being tailored to reflect the reality. And then thirdly, it's the fact that what we are focusing on is in grooming talents. The way we do run these programs, it's the fact that many of them, even after training, like our partnership with Microsoft, we also certify them. They get certified. So they get certification vouchers where they can go online and take certification courses that makes them globally certified, to be able to handle all of these various verticals of the AI knowledge skill set. And then they become talents. We even now do talent pooling and talent acquisition. So yes, in the long run, from the primary, secondary, higher institution, then they become qualified and skilled up, and then they are certified, and then they are pushed forward as talents for workforce development, for what's called for workforce usage.
That is very interesting. I see how you're creating that talent pipeline. Well done, Data Science Nigeria. Well done, Mr. Omotayo. And as we begin to wrap up, I would like to understand, as someone who is deeply involved in improving learning outcomes in underserved communities, how would you ensure that AI in education is inclusive and accessible to all. And considering, the potential disparities in access to technology, I mean, you were speaking earlier, when you were mentioning some of the challenges you see AI solving, you mentioned access. So how do we ensure that there's equity, that people are not disenfranchised? Because I'm already seeing how learners in upscale schools or schools in upscale communities would latch onto the potential that AI would present. And we could possibly be leaving out a lot of millions of students and teachers.
Yeah.
So, how do we ensure that there is that inclusiveness and accessibility to all?
Thank you so much. I'll speak to this very quickly using about 4 points. Now, number one is the fact that BSN, one of our mission, is also in localizing access to this learning, to AI knowledge. So number one of what we've done is we're beginning to localize our learning content. For example, on the 30th of April this year, when we were launching Data Science Nigeria in partnership with the Google project and the Arewa project, Arewa funded this program, we launched a set of videos of AI in Hausa language. Now, can you imagine? That's the first of its in Nigeria and maybe even in Africa, where you are localizing learning content in a local language, such that on the radio airwaves, anywhere whatsoever, without access to maybe certain kind of technological gadgets and all of that, anybody anywhere can actually understand what AI is all about in their local language. And we're also doing this even for the other primary local languages in Nigeria as well. So that's localization of the learning content. Then number two, we are doing professional specific training. Last year, between the months of October from the World Teachers Day all through to November, we ran an 8-week masterclass on generative AI for educators targeted at teachers. We know that teachers are very critical in the education in the education pipeline, and there are no intervention you could run where if you do not upskill the teachers, you will not be able to achieve that at scale and as required. So last year we trained over 3,000 teachers in Nigeria, on how to leverage artificial intelligence for teaching and learning, just using their smartphone. So they don't need laptops, they don't need any gadgets, but using their smartphone, they can leverage some platforms like the ChatGPT and all of that to be able to create learning content, to be able to prepare their lesson notes, get concepts around how to structure these quiz questions for image, for graph. So they were able to do that. So number two is actually focus on training educators, training professionals with the required skill set. And we also have a community for which we call, in Data Science Nigeria, we have a community called AI-enabled teachers community, which is targeted at teachers who are interested in acquiring AI skill. It's on Facebook, so you could join and then you could have access to some of this. And then lastly on that quickly is offline solutions. During the Learn at Home, one of what we did was we created what we call the learning kiosk. So the learning kiosk is just like a kiosk, solar power with television and all of the learning content. And then we could deploy it to Mapoko. We could deploy it to all over Nigeria. It was all over Nigeria. And, that program was able to reach about 8 million learners, just in Nigeria and even other countries, because it was also airing on radio waves. So these are some of the approaches we leverage in ensuring that the underserved, who are the runts of the ladder, as we may want to say in quotes, are not left out of all of these solutions and intervention.
Thank you. I am particularly interested. My face lit up at learning kiosk because I could see how that would work. I remember was it Iroko TV, when they were launching in Nigeria, they had this kiosks where people could go and interact. I'm seeing it as a learning talk shop, really. So well done. And the AI-enabled teachers community on Facebook, listen, if you're a teacher, you're an educator, or you're an EdTech, AI EdTech enthusiast who is listening to this show, this is one community you want to begin to engage with, because I know that it's going to be power packed with so much activities and information, and that will improve your teaching experience in your classrooms. And so, well done. I also liked what you mentioned about localizing content. So I'm imagining having a chat bot, or just having that interaction in Hausa language. This means everyone and anyone can have access to artificial intelligence. Thank you so much. And now, as we wrap up, are there any ethical considerations that should be prioritized as we begin to implement AI in education here in Nigeria?
All right, thank you so much. Definitely the issue of ethical consideration comes up top whenever you're beginning to talk about artificial intelligence. In fact, in one of our partnership at Data Science Nigeria with Microsoft Nigeria, one of the training we run is on what we call responsible AI, which speaks to ethical consideration and ethical processes in leveraging AI system. Now, I'll speak to three critical issues very quickly. Number one is the issue of data privacy. And I think one of the agencies in Nigeria, that should be NDPR, has already developed a framework for how students and learners' data can be collected and leveraged, because data privacy is a very critical issue. And we are also happy that Nigeria is also stepping forward in that direction, where there are frameworks on how that should be managed. So number one issue is the data privacy. Then number two is on transparency. That is what we call open data policy, where for data or solutions or assets that are being collected from learners and all of that, there's a transparent process about it, how it's collected, what it is, what they are used for, and even afterwards, how they are disposed of or stored when they're no longer in use. And then number three in that is the human in the loop. I know that the Nigerian Digital Framework sees AI as an enabler, as a tool. It's not the end, it's not the final thing, which also speaks to some of the concerns of people and even in the education space, teachers, about AI robots replacing teachers. I don't really see that happening. We must begin to see this as a tool, as an enabler that makes our work and what we do faster and easier as educators. So it's not a replacement, it's a tool. And as we develop and upskill teachers and all of that too, with the competencies and the requisite skill set, they'll be able to own that space, and there will be a human in the loop, which will also be able to safeguard what is done with the various AI tools and solutions that are made available. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omotayo. This has been one power-packed, insight-filled conversation. I'm sure our listeners have so much to share and have learned a lot. So we'd love to hear from them. What are your thoughts on this month's contribution? What are your worries or your concerns or the excitement you have about the role artificial intelligence will play in Nigeria's education ecosystem? If you were to design a solution or a tool that would leverage on artificial intelligence, what would it be? What would it do? Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message on 0703 165 0809. We would love to hear from you. And if you're curious about where all this conversation takes place away from radio, then look no further. We have a WhatsApp and a Telegram channel, EdTech Mondays Nigeria. You can go on your WhatsApp channel or Telegram and search EdTech Mondays Nigeria. We look forward to you joining and engaging in all the meaningful conversations and activities that happen there about the future of EdTech in Nigeria. Thank you once again, Mr. Omotayo, for joining us on the show today. It was a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much, Chinyelo. Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And I remain your host, Chinyelo Apa. I look forward to another insightful conversation next Monday, same time, same station. Until then, it's bye for now.
EdTech Monday is proudly brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.